Okay, that should be it. Connecting stream software. We should be live.
On YouTube?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it shows that I'm live. Cool.
Okay, you're live. So, are people watching on YouTube, or where are we watching?
So watching on YouTube, commenting and everything on YouTube. But if they want to join for, general questions and stuff, you can. Yep. So let's see if it gives me the link here.
Can you put it in the main chat instead of the announcements?
Yeah, that's what I'm about to do right here. Got you, homie.
And then I'm muted on YouTube, so I can't hear myself.
Cool.
So I'm sure.
There it is. Boom. Let's see. I am now live for Sunday Stock Talk. Feel free to tune in. Boom. Alrighty. Let's get this thing on the road, man. I'm pretty excited. I finally got approved for streaming, which is pretty nice. And so now I can actually show you guys charts, and it'll be pretty clean stuff. Toss is a little slow, but I mean, that's all right. Call that growth pain. So yeah. And then for people who are tuning in, y'all can feel free to type into the chat box and ask questions, or just DM me, or really anything. So yeah. That said, I'm going to be doing my watch list here going into the 8th of March. We just had a huge sell-off on the 5th of March, 2021. And that said, we are charting in anticipation of the market going this week. So, yeah. What is up, Carrera Lou? This is pretty cool. I'm very excited that it's working. It's lower than the recommended bid. Wait, what? Okay, so cool. That said, let's rock it. So firstly, I'm going to be going over the main kind of watches that we have. Typically, you're looking at QQQ, SPY, Apple, Amazon, Tesla, common names. You know, you already know. So that said, the previous video I had mentioned that we had an inverse head and shoulders kind of forming, and that I had anticipated that we would be seeing either a flat or a red day going into Monday. And that's kind of confirming as of right now as we speak. We do have QQQ down about 2 points. So I think futures are going to be down just a little bit. That's all right, though. And pretty much what I wanted to show you guys was this inverse head and shoulders that we see on an hourly time frame. So that right here is our first shoulder. Here's our head. Here's our second shoulder. And ideally what we want to see here is QQQ holding onto this 50-day moving average, where we can from there kind of bounce and head up to the 200-day moving average, where we would be taking profit. And that's like the main play that I'm kind of looking at right now. I would love to see QQQ hold on to this 306 area. So that said, that's what I think for QQQ. We would need to hold on to, again, this like 305, 306 area. Otherwise, that would be kind of thrown out the window. That said, let's move on to SPY. That is the S&P 500. And let's get this thing going. So SPY has been doing pretty decent in comparison to QQQ. That's mainly because it's more so holding more defensive in financial stocks. So with that in mind, you can see it being a lot more strong in comparison. Notice we still have that same inverse head and shoulders, but it isn't kind of dumping off as badly as QQQ is. So notice up here at 383.18, we're actually holding on to pretty much yesterday's close, or Friday's close. What I would like to see going into Monday is us holding on to this kind of 383 level and breaking above 385, which is the 200-day moving average for the hourly chart. If we can do that, I think we'll break to the upside using, again, the same inverse head and shoulders. Here's our first shoulder, here's our head, here's our second shoulder. And ideally, we break above there and see a huge breakout to the upside. So again, it's kind of a play on that 385 level. I think that if we cannot get above that level, we'll probably see the market slide a little bit again. And that said, we can probably see a retest of these lows that we had on Friday. So I'm going to do a couple more tech stocks, and I'm going to open it up for anyone who wants to request a stock for me to look at. Feel free to ask for as many as you want, but I do ask that you don't put, say 10 tickers for me to look at, because I do want to make sure everyone has their chance at getting their own plays in. So yeah, first I'm going to look at Apple and Amazon, because those are some things that are on my main watch. Apple had a very nice recovery, V-shaped recovery, going Friday towards the end of the day, and it stayed relatively flat in after hours. But I'm mainly looking at it on this hourly time frame, as again, it does have this inverse head and shoulders setup that we're seeing on QQQ. And my custom indicator is showing a reversal to the upside right here at 118.5. So ideally, we need to break above 122 and kind of start forming this extra shoulder. Otherwise, I wouldn't consider taking this just yet, but we do have a crossover on MACD and a relatively neutral RSI. With that, we can expect it to maybe go to 125 in short term. Next, I have Amazon. This is another play that I'm pretty dead set on taking. Here's our first shoulder, here's our head, and we haven't started forming the second shoulder yet. So notice it's relatively flat, kind of like this shoulder right here. So if we can see Amazon hold on to 3,000, we can definitely see this thing kind of stay a little flat and then maybe rip to the upside. So I think above maybe 30.50, we can definitely see this thing maybe run to the 3100s. But again, that is contingent on if we can see QQQ and SPY hold on to these same levels. We do have a crossover, we do have a neutral RSI, but I think until we have that confirmation above 50 SMA, maybe above 350, to start forming that extra shoulder breakout, I wouldn't consider taking it. And then I'm going to do one more quick little stock that I want to look at personally, and that is Tesla. I think Tesla has been extremely beat up recently, and I think that we can definitely see some sort of recovery. However, that said, it is kind of a volatile play, especially with how high options premiums are right now. So for me personally, I like playing options for the new people watching. So that is kind of take it with a grain of salt. I like playing options because I think the leverage helps me maximize my profit. So that said, I do think we'll see kind of a little rounding bottom recovery. We have our crossover right here on MACD. We came out of the oversold here on RSI, and overall I think we can definitely push a little higher if we can keep this 600 support. But until then, it is on this heavy downtrend, so I am going to be a lot more careful when it comes to that, and there's going to be definitely a lot more hand sitting when it comes to this play in particular. That concludes like the ones that I'm mainly looking at. I do want to take any requests that you may have. So either type it into the live chat or into Discord. Feel free to DM me, or just type it into any chat and just at me. I'll check it out, I'll chart it out for you, and kind of give you my personal thoughts on what I think about your stock. So yeah, CJ, do you have anything, bro? What you got?
Yeah, brother. If you can, pull up NVIDIA and Roku.
NVDA and Roku. All right, so NVIDIA and Roku. Both of these have been pounded like crazy recently. I think that Roku is currently on this really steep downtrend, and as long as it keeps this channel going, I don't think we'll see it kind of heading up too much higher until we see kind of a market recovery. So that in mind, that's something to kind of keep in account. Although we do have a reversal to the upside on our custom indicator, and we see MACD trying to cross to the upside. If it were to fail to cross to the upside, I would definitely be more weary of taking a call position. And on top of that, we're very oversold on RSI. So I think that if we end up rejecting, say, maybe this like 370 area, 365, we'll probably see Roku head even lower. And then as for NVIDIA, we do have that same inverse head and shoulders that we're seeing on QQQ and on SPY. So here's our first shoulder, here's our head, and here's our second shoulder. We have a reversal to the upside at 487, and I think if we can get above this 50 SMA at 507, 505 area, I think we can definitely break to the upside and maybe go back until mid 520s, maybe 530. We have a crossover and a relatively neutral RSI. Let's see, what do we got for requests? Can I look at wigs? Sure. WIGS. And I ask that if you guys do end up requesting something, if you could just put the actual ticker name, like the actual ticker, because I'm not familiar with some of the plays that you guys have. So WIGS, WIGS. I'm not loading anything here, so I don't know if that's like the actual ticker or if it's WLGS. So if you could correct that, Mike Miller, that'd be great, and I could take your request. PayPal, BA, and JP Morgan. So PayPal, JPM, and BA. So PayPal, I think that we're seeing PayPal kind of fall a little bit, mainly because we have that exposure to tech, and it kind of sits in this weird position where it is kind of like a finance stock, but it's playing more like a tech stock. That said, though, we do have we're kind of starting a rounding bottom here with PayPal. Notice we have that reversal to the upside, and we have our MACD cross along with RSI coming out of the oversold. I would not mind taking PayPal from 240 up to 248, maybe 250. And that would be my play for something like this. Again, I'm not a financial advisor, by the way. I have to disclose that, of course. I'm just giving you my thoughts and what I would maybe do. Here is JP Morgan. I know JP Morgan has been extremely strong while the market has been selling off. It's kind of just been holding on to this kind of 155 to 147 area. So that said, JP Morgan does have a crossover to the upside and a neutral RSI. And that's honestly a perfect setup to head upwards, in my opinion. I would take it maybe above 151.5, above this 50-day moving average on the hourly chart. And I would take it maybe to retest 153 or 154. That would be how I'd play that. Notice that we held on to 200-day moving average as support. And with that in mind, it is definitely a support level that we're kind of confirming. Lastly, we have Boeing here. Boeing has been kind of a weird play. I haven't played Boeing in quite a while, mainly because of that huge sell-off that it had recently. And then this huge pump kind of negated a lot of it, and it made it kind of a weird play. But Boeing has kind of been dancing around this 200-day moving average. It's trying to cross over, and it has a neutral RSI. I would wait for this thing, honestly, above 222, which is the 20-day moving average on the hourly chart before I take it. And I would probably take profit. I would say PT number 1 at 226, which is 50 SMA, and maybe PT number 2 at 230, which is a whole number resistance line. Can I check out Workhorse? What is $sign work? Oh, okay. WKHS. Let me load up these new ones for you guys. MU and also Square. All right, so first I'm going to do Workhorse. It seems like they had a huge sell-off. I'm pretty sure that was because of that news with the U.S. Postal Service. I'm not too sure. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but they've been super beat up, especially with this market sell-off. They're a little too flat for my taste. Honestly, I would completely avoid them. At least when I personally look at this, Workhorse is a little too oversold. That in mind, it's too flat for me to take a position in it, at least right now. Micron, very nice V-shaped recovery on an hourly chart. It is currently sitting at the 200-day moving average with an inverse head and shoulders. I think if you can get this thing above 90, you'll definitely see it rip back up to like 92 with that inverse head and shoulders pattern. Here's a crossover, and here's a relatively strong RSI. Overall, pretty solid setup here. I like Micron. And we have Square. Square again kind of has that same feeling as PayPal, where it's got that it gets hit with tech stocks, but it doesn't really rally with the other financials. But we do have a crossover and a neutral RSI, and on top of that, we have a reversal to the upside at 205.5. So I think that we can definitely see kind of a rounding bottom start to form here. I would not mind taking it if we can have RSI 9 SMA kind of catch up to this, and we use it kind of as our little temporary support to the upside, and we would take profit maybe at 227, and say it breaks above, we take it maybe to 240. Not bad. I would just wait for confirmation above 220. Can I look at Oh, what is this? How do you get the extra charts under the candle charts? Are you talking about these? The indicator set? That is under your studies section, and that's where you can see pretty much other indicator sets that are used. I personally use CCI, RSI, MACD 2 lines, and a few custom scripts that I use. Let's see. What kind of calls were you buying Friday for Tesla? Naked. I was taking naked contracts, but I was taking about 3 weeks out, and I was buying in the money. I believe that the most important thing you can do when it comes to trading options, especially naked, is buy in the money with time, because that gives you protection from the downside, and you're able to get in and out pretty easily without much hassle. Can I do Fastly? Sure. Fastly has been on this pretty steady downtrend pretty much since the beginning of February. You're kind of starting to round out a bottom here. You do have a crossover and a relatively neutral RSI. I would wait for a break above 50 SMA hourly, which is 66.5. Above there, I wouldn't mind riding it to 70. Thank you for, would you please do snow? Sure. And then CJ, feel free to, butt in with anything really. Cause I know you're vibing out here. My guy's probably listening to some Drake or something. I got you. So for snow, you do have a reversal to the upside, but we pinged one to the downside not too soon after. I'm kind of iffy about this one. I don't know if I would play this setup because this kind of looks like a head and shoulders. And that said, with a reversal to the downside right after this one to the upside, it's a little too iffy personally. You have a crossover to the upside and you have a relatively neutral RSI. I just don't like the contradicting indicators right here. And on top of that, you have a bunch of simple moving averages pushing the stock even further. Personally, I just wouldn't take this one. I've never played snow, so on top of that, it's a little too... I don't have any experience with that one personally. Can I do lemonade? Sure. Lemonade? Okay. I have a love-hate relationship with Lemonade. I caught Lemonade from 100 to about 130 initially on that huge pump that it had. And I had only bought shares. I wish I bought options. I would probably be retired if I did. So little bit of salt on that one. That said, we do have a rounding bottom forming from this 132 mark. And notice we have a reversal at 87.92. Here is a crossover that we had, and we're coming out of the oversold for RSI. Overall, it looks very strong. I would want to see this thing kind of hang out on the 90 support level. And I think from there we can see 9 SMA and 20 SMA kind of catch up and act as a support line above 100. This thing's extremely good. I would take profit at 100, and I would set my second profit target to 110. Apple, I already knocked out Apple. I'll just really quickly go through the really quick gist of it. I like Apple. Inverse head and shoulders. I think above 122, we see this thing at 125. What software am I using? This is Thinkorswim by TD Ameritrade. Thank you. Yep, no problem. Sorry, were you saying for Mu you'll wait for it to go above 90? Yeah, I would wait for Mu above 90. And ANF, I just knocked out Snow for you. Do we have any other tickers here? I'll open it up to a few more people here. Any ticker?
I don't know if you already did it, but Palantir, PLTR, they've been holding at 24, 25 level.
So, okay, yeah. Palantir, I actually really like Palantir. I'm holding about 750 shares of Palantir. I did size down on my position a little bit, mainly because of how the market's been, and I don't want to have that exposure to the downside. But I do still have about 750 shares of them. That in mind, Palantir is doing pretty strong. We did have that huge bounce on the 20 mark, which is extremely important because of the previous trend right here. Let me pull up a 4-hour chart. So we bottomed out at 20, which we haven't been at since November of last year when we had this initial breakout, and then we kind of had support ever since then at that 22.20 mark. So that in mind, I think we're currently still in consolidation for Palantir, and I would expect Palantir to kind of move to the upside a little bit if the market can start recovering. We do have a reversal at 22.01 along with a crossover and a neutral RSI. It looks pretty darn good. I have a small bias because I'm holding shares, but overall I think Palantir is pretty strong.
And then I got two more. I don't know if you already did. SOS and Disney.
SOS and Disney.
If you want to start with Disney, I can chime in, kind of give you a bit of the rest. But I know they had some news that they're going to be opening up 15% of parks starting April 1st, if I'm not mistaken. So that's why they're up, hugely over after hours there. So I'm kind of thinking something along the lines of like break above 197, grab some calls up to like 198 up there. You see that's like the top of that wick.
Mm-hmm.
And then above 198, I think we could maybe test 200. And if this thing breaks 200, that's all-time high. And I think we just kind of run at that point. Double bottom on the MACD as you got there. Sun gold meter at 0. Everything pointing bullish. I think this is a real winner.
I definitely think that we can see Disney above 200 and definitely ripping to the upside. That news that it had in after hours is what shot this thing up initially, and it did confirm on that inverse head and shoulders that we were seeing. So that might give us a little hint as to what we'll see going into the future. That said, let me peep out this SOS stock really quick. I've never played it. I've been hearing a lot about it recently. A lot of comments and a lot of people have DM'd me about this stock in particular. So I'll just check it out really quick. We did have this pretty steady downtrend, kind of going back quite a bit from $14 plus. But that said, we did have a reversal to the upside at 6.01. We have a crossover and a neutral RSI. I would say that if we can get back above maybe $7, I would take this thing up to 8 plus, maybe $9. But overall, it's kind of it's an iffy one for me personally because I've never played it, but you kind of have a rounding bottom forming. Like, I would maybe do shares for something like this.
And then, did you already do Facebook?
I have not done Facebook.
Yo, okay, listen. Facebook, maybe an all-in. Let me not say that.
Yeah, that's.
Facebook is a great. Look at. Okay, no.
Okay, Facebook. I made 5,000 on Facebook on Friday. So. Oh, look at this. Look at this.
Yeah, the inverse head and shoulders. You know where I'm going. Yep.
I got you.
Inverse head and shoulders on the
boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, so break above. I mean, at least for me, I got break above
265. Oh, okay.
I mean, hey, I'll take 265 too, but I got break above 267 for safety. We ride this thing back up to 270, 272 and a half.
I would have to agree with you 100% on this one, bro.
Yeah, and that's going to be like a 20-30% bagger on a Monday.
I definitely like Facebook to the upside. I played it a lot on Friday, and I did do pretty well in performance. I took it multiple times from this huge kind of move from 258 on 50 SMA support up to 260, and then from 262 I took it to 263 and a half. Overall performance on Facebook was extremely good. I didn't miss a single trade, and I made about $5,000 on Friday with it. Pretty damn good stuff.
One day,
just on Facebook, by the way. Tesla was another 5.5. Easy money. Let's see. Can I check out? Let's see. What do we got? ZOM, AMD, AI. Okay, Exxon, dude. I am not holding nearly as much as I should be anymore. I sold out the majority. I have about a quarter of my position left. I had $15,000 in calls for ExxonMobil. I landed about 500%, and I took my profit. And then the stuff that I have left is an open 700%, mainly because I bought in at 49, and it's currently at 61. And those are on options. That in mind, Exxon is starting to cross to the downside on the hourly chart, and we're extremely overbought. So I wouldn't be surprised if we fell back down to the 60 level as a retest and maybe turn this into a little head and shoulders and go back down to 59 temporarily. But until then, I'm not going to be entering a ZOM a ZOM call for right now, at least. AMD has been massively beat up, but it does have an inverse head and shoulders forming. I would wait for it above 80 though. AMD it's been rough, so I wouldn't bet on this thing recovering as quick as everyone else. And then we've got AI. AI has been getting shredded into smithereens recently, but it did have a huge change in trend right here. We have a crossover, and it hopped out of super oversold into very bullish. You have a bull flag right here, and you have 50 SMA and 9 SMA kind of riding to the upside. I would take profit at maybe like 100 if I were to take a position on that. Can I check SIDM? SIDM? Sure. Oh, it's a penny stock. Personally, I don't do penny stocks. That's my warning. I don't really do penny stocks. So those kind of scare me. That in mind, you have a crossover and a relatively bullish RSI. I don't know where I'd even take profit on this because keep in mind, at $1, every 1 penny is 1%. So I don't know, maybe take profit. Like I don't even know. Here's a shoulder. Here's your head. Here's your other shoulder. Maybe 133. I don't know. Take what I said on on CIDM with a huge grain of salt because I don't trade pennies. I don't know how to trade pennies. Tesla almost touched 200 SMA on Friday. If QQQ dips tomorrow, do you think we'll test 520 or even 500? Yes. Absolutely, bro. So I'm assuming you're talking about. I think it was either daily or it was 4 hour that we saw Tesla just rip downwards. I guess it was a daily chart. Tesla has been on this shred to the downside, and it kind of looks like a head and shoulders forming, and I would not be surprised if we saw this thing retest. That is only on the condition of the market being red. I think as long as we see Qs being green, I don't think we'll see Tesla rip further down. That's at least my personal belief. I don't have any money in that say. I don't know. Tesla's a little iffy. It's been super volatile recently, but as CJ said as I read that question, yes.
Hey, can you also pull up Boeing? I think Boeing is a pretty interesting one above 230. I think they can get some legs under.
Okay, so
we got the stimmy news that just passed, right? The $1.9 trillion deal. So people may want to spend some of that stimmy news or traveling. So could be a nice trade.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, for Boeing, I did already do the chart for it. I'm a little iffy about Boeing mainly because of how it's kind of been acting recently. It's been super volatile. Some days it'll be completely flat. Other days it rips to the upside or just completely plummets. That in mind, though, we do have a crossover that's forming, and we have RSI that's relatively neutral. I think above 223, 224, you can see it back above 226. From 226 to 230 would be how I would play it. DraftKings. I have not played DraftKings in a very long time. I bought shares at 40, I sold them at 50, and I haven't looked at them since. We have a crossover and a relatively neutral RSI. It is still kind of in the bearish side. That in mind, though, we have a crossover a reversal at 57.25. I would wait for this thing above 62, which is 200-day moving average, and that's where I would enter and take it back to 64, 65 area. It's a little, I don't know, it's kind of, I don't know if I would play that one. To be completely 100% G-real with y'all. It's definitely a little, rough. All right. And let me peep out. What else do we have here? PSTH. PSTH. I have never heard of this nor played this. That is a quick little preface for you. That in mind, we have fallen below the 50 SMA, and I don't know if you guys had watched yesterday's video, but this is a massive H pattern on the daily chart. So that is why we saw this thing continue to dip, because notice as soon as we broke the double bottom right here, we headed down even lower. That in mind, notice this huge hanging candle. It is very bullish from that standpoint. And when you look at even the hourly chart, this thing ripped up 10% in a day. It has a bull flag forming. I would wait for it to go above 200 SMA at $29 before I were to enter something like this. On top of that, I'm just not sure how I would take profit on a stock like this. Maybe like 30, but that's not that much of an upside.
this is a Parrish and Square, bro.
I have no idea what that is, bro.
That's your boy Bill Ackman's hedge fund.
Ah.
The guy who bet against Herbalife.
Oh, nice. All right, he has my respect.
Yeah. All of a sudden bullish.
All of a sudden. Okay, so what do we got? Can I do BIA or BNGO? BNGO. Bingo. Oh, where's BNGO? Okay, so bingo. Yo, what is up, Danny? Danny is in the room, my man. What's up? Bro, dude, Nicola, I don't think he knows about my hatred towards Nicola, bro. I'm gonna keep it real. I don't think he knows about it. I might have to give him a one-on-one phone call as to why I don't even look at Nicola. But Nicola, I can't even talk, bro. Bingo. Bingo, inverse head and shoulders, I think. Here's the head. Here's the first shoulder. I think the next one's starting to form. I would wait for the 50 SMA break. We have a crossover and a relatively strong RSI. So overall, I would maybe take it above $8 and ride it up to 9. Maybe even like 9.5, but I've never played this one before. It's like me and Lyft. Yeah, fucking, I mean, freaking. Haha, don't demonetize me, Mr. YouTube. But yeah, I'll check out Nicola. I've always thought they were kind of a scam, so I'm glad that they're falling. But here's Nicola. You have a reversal to the upside on our custom script, along with a crossover and RSI resetting to the upside. I would wait for it to go above 15.5 to maybe go to 16.5-ish. That in mind, I mean, you are on this super heavy downtrend, so I wouldn't be surprised if it continued heading even lower. Can I check out Snap and Airbnb? Sure. Snap. I have been going on for, I don't even know how long, actually. CJ, does it tell you how long I've been streaming?
Yes, 31 minutes, 32 minutes.
Sweet. Yeah, we're knocking this out, bro. It's pretty fun stuff. Airbnb. All right, so first we have Snapchat. I had a long position in Snapchat earlier this week, and it got pounded. So I'm kind of a little raw still from Snapchat. That in mind, though, we do have an inverse head and shoulders forming. I would maybe wait for the 58 break. You have a crossover, and RSI is sitting pretty neutral. I would maybe take profit at 50 SMA, which is around 59.5. And if it breaks above there, I would consider taking it up to 64 again. That in mind, be a little patient on this one because it is kind of still at the beginning of this head and shoulders. SE, I don't know what this one is. I've never played it. But we do kind of have a little rounding bottom starting to form. We have a crossover and a relatively neutral RSI. Overall, I think it's okay. Maybe take it to there's like 235 or 237.5 mark, assuming that it holds 230 as support. And lastly, Airbnb. We have just an overall kind of a little rounding bottom. We have a crossover and a neutral RSI, along with a reversal to the upside at 175. Overall, I mean, it's an okay play. If it can hold on to 50 SMA and have 9 and 20 SMA hold on, I would consider taking it to the upside.
Somebody wanted McDonald's MCD.
MCD. Schmackdonald's, bro. We haven't played. Remember that one day, the single time we played McDonald's, we landed 100%? That was so crazy. We'll see. Personally, I like my 10-piece spicy nuggets, so I might have to say I'm long on McDonald's. But jokes aside, we have inverse head and shoulders forming from that huge dump that we had. Here's a crossover. We are very bullish on RSI. We have a very kind of strange wick right here on this candle. I would not be surprised if we saw that maybe a 210 retest in a short-term kind of time frame. Can I look at Shopify PFE?
Yo, listen, Shopify, definitely a fan favorite for me. They can bump up to 200 SMA on the daily. I personally like them above 1158, maybe 1160, and then you can run that to 1200, and then maybe 1220. I think they have a nice upside. So.
Okay, yeah, no, I vibe, bro. I vibe. Okay, so let me peep these out. So here's Shopify. Shopify, I mean, it's been really beat up. We went from 1,500 all the way down to 1,000. I think we can definitely see some sort of recovery here for Shopify. At least that's my personal belief, mainly because, again, it's kind of a fan favorite. I'll agree. It's pretty fresh. So we have a reversal at 1076.41. We have an inverse head and shoulders forming. We have a crossover and a neutral RSI. I would take profits maybe at 1,200, bro. I'm bullish, but I would be playing shares. I wouldn't be playing options on something like this. I do not like the options for Shopify. They are extremely expensive and they have a massive spread. So you enter and you instantly lose $200. I'm personally just not a fan of that. Let's see. We got Activision. Activision, again, also inverse head and shoulders. You have a potential reversal to the downside that's currently pinging. So that would be kind of a little red flag for me personally. Here's a crossover and a relatively neutral RSI. And so overall, I mean, I think we can see this thing head up, but this potential reversal to the downside would have me kind of stick away from Activision, personally speaking, at least. Can I look at Pfizer? Pfizer is crossing over with a bullish RSI. You got above 200 SMA and you're riding on top of all the rest. Overall, it's just bullish. I would take profit at 35 if I took a call position. And overall, you just have a huge rounding bottom forming. Let me just check it on a different time frame just to make sure I'm not kind of narrow visioning this thing. Oh, even on a further out chart, notice we have a cup and handle right here. Here's our cup. Here's our little handle. I think we can see this thing rip. Let's see. Peloton. It's Peloton thoughts. Options versus shares. Ooh, now that's a good question. Peloton. Inverse head and shoulders. We have a crossover and relatively neutral RSI. We had a ping reversal at 98.6. I would take Peloton above this 108 mark, which is the 50 SMA, if we can break above it. It depends, because if you're holding Peloton long term, I think it's very cheap right now. Again, this is my personal thoughts. I'm not a financial advisor, but I do think that it's really cheap right now, and it could be a decent play as a share play because it is currently on sale. I'll just leave it there. I think we can maybe see it reverse a little bit. Can I check out Microsoft? Sure. Microsoft has the W because it's going to go way up. That was so lame. That was so bad.
We'll edit that out.
Yeah, we'll edit that out on some. I'm going to have everyone in the live stream unhear that one. So we have a giant bull flag on Microsoft. I think above 234, this thing continues to rip upwards. You have a very bullish RSI and you have a open MACD. It's pretty damn nice looking. I can't even sugarcoat it. It just looks pretty damn good. I'm a fan.
Plus, during the sell-off, they were one of the ones that were actually holding up pretty well.
Can you go over some of the shares you're in and what you look for? Next question. No. Personally speaking, at least, my holdings are comprised majority of SPY, QQQ, Apple, Microsoft, Tesla, Space, SPCE. I have a little bit of gold, maybe like 15 shares, so not really much. I have a lot of shares of Boeing at about a 102 average. And then I'm also holding Square, AMD. AMD's been pounding me, by the way. And I also have JP Morgan along with Goldman Sachs. I do want to keep, a general... along with ExxonMobil. I do want to keep a good balance between growth and dividend along with kind of defensive stocks. So I'm probably forgetting a few of those, but I think I also have a little bit of Target shares, but I own majority Costco. I think Costco right now is very cheap and a very good bargain because of that huge market drop that we had. Like, again, notice we saw this thing go to 300, and keep in mind it was previously, 360, and we also just pinged a reversal. We have an inverse head and shoulders. I think above 321, I might even play options on it. But I think Costco right now is kind of a bargain as a not financial advisor. I think it looks very fresh. Let's see. Cool. I think is that all? I think we knocked out everyone's request. I managed to keep fanning the or to keep extinguishing the massive request flame that we saw. And if anyone has any general trading questions, feel free to either DM me or just type it in the chat box. But I think that will be concluding tonight's session. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I think we peaked out at about 28 different viewers at the same time, which is extremely exciting. Feel free to subscribe. I don't know, maybe I earned your subscription, maybe I didn't. All good if I didn't, or maybe drop a like if you want. That in mind, I think I'm going to be concluding the Sunday Stock Talk, Sunday watch list here. I personally think we'll either see a slightly red or a flat day tomorrow, and then we see a rip midweek with an inverse head and shoulder on majority of stocks. Can I look at FVRR? All right, maybe one more. That's the last one right there. Marilyn Ang, you got the last request. So Fiverr, you got Fiverr. How often do I go live? I'm going to try to make this 3 times a week during the week. So Monday, Wednesday, or no. On Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, make a nightly watch list. So for us to go into Monday, Wednesday, and Friday accordingly. So you can catch me live on those days. Probably same time, 7 PST. But let me knock out this really quick, this Fiverr, and then we'll call a stream here. So Fiverr, we have an inverse head and shoulder forming along with a crossover and a relatively kind of recovering RSI. It's kind of neutral, kind of bearish still. But I think if we can see if we can see Fiverr kind of round out around this 220 mark and see it as a support line, I think we can definitely see it kind of recover back up to the 230s, maybe even 240 eventually. It has been beat up like crazy after it rejected 200 SMA, and notice it has been rejecting it ever since it fell below it. So 1 rejection, back down, 2 rejections, even lower, and we kept legging down with H's over and over. And this is that same simple pattern that I was talking about in my most recent video, that this H pattern just continues to leg down even further and further, knocking the stock. So I would be a little iffy to take this thing if it can't hold on to the 220 mark. But if it can, maybe consider taking it to 230 as your profit target, and maybe 240 if you're really spicy. So yeah, that was our last request right there. I appreciate everyone for tuning in. I will be live again Tuesday night going into Wednesday, and I look forward to seeing you guys there. I appreciate all the new people who are watching, people who are returning, and I'll see y'all then. That said, I'm going to be ending the stream, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Let's end this week green. Peace.